Hey all, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world or wherever you're watching this or what time you're watching it. My name's Matt Flanagan of Bluehub, and I just want to summarise a conversation we've had this week with a client. This is an e-commerce client, does wholesale, sort of B2B, and does some retail. And their question was, how do we integrate CIN7 Core into our existing e-commerce stack? So I just want to summarise what the problem was, what we discussed, how the platform could look for them, and also some of the outcomes and a bit of advice and guidance I'd give. So just be a couple of minutes, not anything too detailed. But if you are selecting CIN7 Core or another inventory system for your e-commerce, it's just something to think about as you go through it. So for those of you in this scenario, I hope you find it of use. So we had the problem, how do you integrate CIN7 Core into the existing e-commerce stack? So the scenario for this particular client was they were skincare, they're US based, their products were essentially made up of components. So that was a group of components make up their final product, and they also do co-manufacturing, which is where you send out that assembly of that product out to somebody else to assemble it, and then they have the finished products. And we see quite a lot of this now where there's a combination of internally assembled product and externally assembled product. So this is how this company particularly worked. Their existing systems, so we see a lot of businesses now who have some sort of existing systems that they're using. They had Ecommerce, which was B2B and B2C, had a shipping app, Excel for planning and forecasting, and accounting. So not an uncommon setup where people are starting to now want a bit more inventory control, a bit more accounting around their inventory, and some two-way integration between each of the different systems they have. So the e-com, the shipping app, the accounting, so that they start to get a single source of truth. So again, how do we integrate CIN7 Core into this existing e-commerce stack? So let's have a bit of a look through this. So the business was two WooCommerce set up, one for B2C and one for B2B. They were directly integrating with QuickBooks. That's getting some of the information in and utilising Stripe, etc., for taking payments. ShipStation for the shipping apps. That's, if you're not familiar, that's essentially one of the shipping apps that you can use. But what that starts to do is take the address information and package information, and then start to print off. You're able to print off the packaging labels and select carriers, etc. It really depends on a different scenario, but they're quite advanced, the shipping apps, and there's a few out there now. And then planning forecasting was done manually. We'd take a little bit of information from each of the systems and producing a planning and forecasting. So that was the current setup as it was. So the inventory system they were choosing was CIN7 Core. So the conundrum was, how do we start to introduce this? What integration lines do we have to break or change? And how does this all really work together as a platform rather than singular individual systems? So CIN7 Core becomes here. So two WooCommerce platforms into CIN7 Core, and that allows essentially sale information to go into from the e-commerce channel, and then the order information can go directly to CIN7 Core, and then the inventory elsewhere, the inventory amounts and volumes start to change, and also then you've got a whole workflow of how that order is then managed. And then we have ShipStation, which would then start to connect to CIN7 Core. So that starts to take in information that's come out of the WooCommerce into CIN7 Core, and then that starts to fire off conversations and interactions with the ShipStation for the carrier that needs to be chosen and printing off the labels, for example. And then we have the information going to QuickBooks. So as payments are made, as invoices are raised, there's an integration there into QuickBooks, which is keeping everything updated. So that can keep things like the individual orders updated. There's also things like your cost of goods and things, which can start to then seen and visible within the accounting system. And then the planning and forecasting, we'd actually come away from Excel and look at one of the third-party planning and forecasting products which is out there, which would have to be determined knowing more about exactly what they're trying to plan and forecast. We tend to see a lot more businesses, once they've been on an inventory system /ERP, we tend to find that when they start to need real plan and forecasting, needs to bring them off the core reporting from the inventory system CIN7 Core and start to look at a plan and forecasting tool to bring that all to life, really. So that becomes your new model of what you are looking for. So what you start to get then is connected systems, your sales channels, your shipping, you've got inventory control, you've got inventory visibility, you've got accounting, you've got the plan and forecasting. You start to get a single source of truth, which is CIN7 Core, because that's getting the feed of everything and also feeding out. And that becomes a scalable platform. So that is now a platform which can start to scale because you've got a much bigger ceiling in order to grow into with this type of setup. So it could be that you're a million turnover and it would see you up to 15, 20 million and higher, in all honesty. So it really allows you to scale. And also the good part of this is things like CIN7 Core is actually, we're also seeing the ecosystem scale as well. So there's much more opportunity with the ecosystem and being able to work with other areas quite easily. So there's a lot more coming into that scenario as well. The advice from our perspective would be think about your integrations. Don't just plug and play and hope. Understand your data flows between systems, triggers for flows and the frequency of movement of data. Review and understand the integration settings between the systems. There are some little integration settings between each of the systems which will make a difference with how the data flows, what data flows, and in what format that'll flow, which will make a difference to maybe how you're reporting or another part of your platform. And the final one is don't think about each system separately. Treat these set of systems as your own specific platform. So if you're in the scenario where you're thinking about how do you introduce CIN7 Core into your e-commerce setup or another inventory system, these are the things you need to think about. If this is you, good luck. I hope this has been useful and you can use it for some of your thinking. Bye for now.